Good morning. I just want to make a real quick video. I made a video about the Guidonian astrological hand, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that hand again and how it ties into all the sacred tones and stuff that are supposed to open our mind and heal our bodies through somatic wave phenomenon. Perhaps that frequencies do something biologically to us. So what's the difference between 440 and 432? I've covered it in some of my geometry videos. I just thought I'd talk about it a little bit. So you have your pent scales, or your 5-noted scales. That's your minor, and then your major. Major and your minor pent scales, and you have your solfeggio, and the pents right in the notes in between. So if you watch some of my videos, you'll see how music and geometry and all that stuff's intertwined, and how our heart beats, our hands, and our spine, all this stuff's intertwined and intersociated with the way with the great year, the year of our Lord, the music, astronomy, math, the trivium, the quadrivium. So tuning into 440 is basically tuning into the mile, which is the average human pace at 5.28 feet. Put a 0 on that, you get 5,280 feet, which is a mile. You can divide that by 12, which is the notes in the octave, or the hours in the day, or the minute phalanges on your hand, and you get 440. So when you tune into 440 at A4 standard, you're tuned into 1/12 of a mile. So if you go from your lower octaves up, you're at like at 110. You're going to be at you got 110, 220, 440, 880. You're going to be at 1/48 of a mile, 1/24 of a mile, 1/12 of a mile, or 1/6 of a mile, something like that. Now, when you tune in to the 432, it's cosmic, it's you, it's the sun, it's the moon, it's Venus. I'll teach you how real quick. Let's start with your hands. You got 27 bones in that Guidonian hand of yours. We're not going to talk about your phalanges and your digits, but we're going to talk about your bones. We're going to go from your hand to your foot, or your cubic foot. 27 bones. 54, 108, 216, 432, 864, and 1728 cubic foot. Start with your hand, wind up with the cubic foot. Those are the Pythagorean octaves. That's tuned into the pyramids. That's so it's way older than Pythagoras. It's tuned into the minutes of the day, arc seconds, time, space, all this good stuff. So we're started off with the hand. When we get to 54, we can practice that scale invariant harmony where you take away and add zeros, and you get 540, which is the degrees in the pentagon, which is, you know, that's those dark notes on the piano. That's the pentatonic scale, associated with the pentagram, the Pentecost, the 5 wounds of Christ, the 5 joys of Mary, all kinds of mythological stuff. Many different cultures use it. You can recognize. So you can get that blues feel. You can play a little Japanese kind of style, Eastern music. You know, all cultures are tuned in to different frequencies, but they use the same basic structures of scales and stuff. If you figure it out, you just take away notes and add notes. So that 54, when you add that 0, you get to the degrees of the pent, or the pentagon, which becomes the pentagram, which has the phi ratio, the Holy Spirit ratio. It also has the proportions of music laid out in it if you know how to unfold fold that pentagram into a straight line. It's also associated with Venus from a heliocentric perspective. Venus makes a 5-pointed star around the Earth. Let's go to 108. At 108, you got octagon degrees in there. You can add a 0 and you get 1 radii of the moon. Go to 216. You can add a 0 to that, and you have the heavenly diameter, or the heavenly measurement of the moon, and you have the degrees in the cube. Let's go to 432. You can times 432 times 432, and you get 186,000 and something, and it's if you do that in miles per second, it's 0.01% accuracy of the speed of light. You can add 3 zeros to the 432, and you get 1 radii, or 1 staff of Ra, charged with brightness of the sun. And I think it's 3 zeros because I think what they were trying to grasp was, like, we're on a sphere, the moon's a sphere and the sun is a greater sphere, so they add those 3 zeros to get to the greater power of the sun. So you get to 864, you can add 3 zeros to that, and you get 864,000 miles, which is the diameter of the sun, roughly, according to the ancient Greeks and the Egyptians and all those people. Then you get to 1728, which is the cubic foot. So you start off with the hand and move through the body, get down to the solar plex, the sun, you get down to the foot. So I've also talked in my videos about how you can use some of these numbers in your hands and your spine to climb the cosmic ladder and get cosmic distance scales and stuff like that. So is it enlightening to listen to those tones? I think to just sit back and listen to those tones, they're just beautiful. Perhaps they do some kind of somatic wave phenomenon and changes our biological, physiological brain chemistry, or makes our DNA change or something like that, because we're tuning into light. In between that 432 and the 864 is the visible light spectrum. And as you tune into the sacred frequency, as you tune into the octave, all the notes in all of those notes will start correlating with either the polygons or numbers in the great year cycle and all this cool stuff. Gosh, I don't know what else I can cover. Tuning into 440 eliminates something called a howling wolf. It's like as you climb through the scales and you get your perfect fifths. Perfect fifth is like the power chord. 440 is supposed to eliminate a howling wolf fifth that you get as you climb through the scales, but you get a little bit of dissonance between notes. It seems like no matter what you tune at, and especially as your strings get older on your guitar. So whether you play the piano, and it's a pious instrument, or you play the guitar, all of these instruments are tuned into all these things. Whether it's the mathematic ratios and proportions, it's just inherent in music. So that's really what all the sacred tones in the 432 comes down to. Yeah. So you can play your semitones. So on and so forth. You're going through all your modes, and you can play your pence. There's sacred tones that were forbidden to be played in the churches, like Devil's Triad, Black Sabbath. So, when you look at the churches, you look at like all the symbols and all that stuff, you see all the sacred geometry everywhere. It's that. That's what it's all about. It's just tuning into the universe of your body, and ultimately the imperial system of knowledge, which puts man as the measure of all things, because we're built in God's image. So we look at ourselves fractally to try to climb back up the cosmic ladder to understand God. Something like that. Or the universe, or the logos, whatever you want to call it. Peace, one love, people. Be blessed.